Hello everyone, good morning once again and welcome to Drishti IAS and myself Girish Venkatesh, and I welcome you all to the online live class for UGC-NET Paper 2 Political Science, and we have already started with the topics with regard to the Political Science Paper 2 syllabus. And as you all know, we have started it with comparative politics, and for the past 3 classes we were into the approaches with regard to the comparative politics, and hopefully today we are going to end with these approaches, because today we are going to deal with the systems approach basically, and that too David Aston's system approach, that is system analysis or systems approach. But before that, let's go into a recap for what all we did. We started this entire discussion with regard to the comparative politics approaches. That was the traditional one, and this traditional approach, it was before the Second World War, and after the Second World War came the new institutionalism. And in that traditional approach, we talked about philosophical approach, historical approach, legal approach, and institutional approach. All the approaches had their own characteristics. But after the Second World War, due to the limitations with regard to the traditional approach, there came the new institutionalism. And with regard to new institutionalism, we had various models of new institutionalism. For example, the rational choice model we had. So such type of models we had. And one more was with regard to political culture. That also we talked about. And in that political culture, we tried to talk about civic society or civic culture, as you can say. And after that, let me put the slides. And first of all, a 10-minute late. The class is starting 10 minutes late. I'm sorry for that, but we'll make up with that 10 minutes. And let me tell you the political culture we were talking about. And one thing was left with regard to that political culture, and that was the criticism part. Am I right? It was with the criticism part. David Aston's and yes. So we were with this political culture approach, and let me first give you a recap, and we'll end with this topic in 10 or 15 minutes, and after that we'll go into the systems approach. Okay, so welcome everyone. How are you all? And if anybody is live online, you can just give your feedback. You can just give your thumbs up for your presence in the class. And I can find that many of them are online, live. Okay, so welcome to you all. So let's start with the political culture approach. Last class we did it in depth, and we said that this was an approach which talks about, which studies the continuous relationship or interaction between the society and the political system. So there is a continuous interaction between the society and the political system. Plus, this political culture approach, it emerged as a part of behavioral science movement. It emerged as a part of what? Behavioral science movement, and it laid emphasis on the study of human behavior and interaction, and its interaction with political institutions and society. That means this political culture approach, it's basically talking about the human behaviors and its interaction with political institutions and society. Plus, this political culture approach, it gains significance in political science after the Second World War. That means when the scholars, they were they talked about the behavioral aspects as well as the sociological aspects of investigation. And here Gabriel Almond's work, that is Comparative Political System, this has popularized the concept of political culture. And here Almond's work, you should know, yeah, last class I said you to write it down also, note it down also. So this one you should write it down, the Comparative Political System 1956. And in this work, Almond basically popularized the concept of political culture in modern political science. Okay, and then we are going to talk about Almond and Verba's conception of political culture. We all know that Almond and Verba's, there was an influential book of Almond and Verba's, and that book was The Civic Culture, that is Political Attitudes and Democracy in 5 Nations, 1963. It was Political Attitudes and Democracy. Political Attitudes and Democracy in 5 Nations. This was the name of that influential book which Almond and Verba talked about. And in this book only, they gave the conception of what? They gave the conception of political culture. And here they tried to understand the relationship between political culture and democratic stability. That means with this approach, they are trying to understand the relationship that is between the democratic stability and political culture. Now, Almond and Verba, they have identified 2 types of political culture. That means they say that there are there are 3 types of political culture which they have identified. One is participant, the other one is subject, and the third one is parochial. One is subject, parochial, as well as the participant. Now, when they talk about the participant, that is the participant political culture. That participant political culture is what? That participant political culture is an active citizen involved in high level of political knowledge. That means that participant is active citizen. Okay, there is an active citizen involvement plus high level of political knowledge and a strong belief in democratic values. This is what is the first type of political culture, that is the participant political culture. That participant political culture is what? Very active citizen involvement plus high degree of political knowledge as well as faith over democracy or democratic values. Then when we talk about the subject political culture of Almond and Verba's, here the citizens' participation is what? Limited citizens' participation, plus they have a reliance on authority figures, that means on top figures. They have a reliance on the powerful figures, plus they have a low sense of political knowledge. This is the subject political culture. And the parochial political culture is someone who's disengaged from politics. That means they are away from the politics, with citizens having little interest or awareness of political affairs. That means they are away from the politics and they have very little, interest or awareness of political affairs. And Almond and Verba says that if you want democratic stability, if you want effective governance, then there should be strong participant political culture. So he is advocating of a strong participant political culture so that there will be democratic stability and effective governance. Plus, in his influential work, Almond and Verba, they conduct a comparative study in 5 countries, and these were the United States of America, the United Kingdom, Germany, Italy, Mexico. And in these 5 countries, when they were doing a comparative study of these 5 countries, they were trying to analyze what? The relationship between political culture and democratic system. What they were trying to find out? The relationship between political culture and democratic system. And according to them, that is Almond and Verba's work, they were able to understand, their contribution was that they were able to make us understand the role of citizens' attitude. What is the role of citizens' attitude? What is the role of citizens' beliefs, values in shaping and functioning of the success of democratic system? So this is what is Almond and Verba. But still we talk about the civic culture. This civic culture is basically the link between the cultural factors and the political stability. That means here Ronald is the person, is the scholar. He says that cultural factors have a link with political stability and economic development. That means there are cultural factors which have a link between political stability and economic development. And according to him, civic culture's definition is what? It's a coherent syndrome. What is this? This is a coherent syndrome. Coherent syndrome with reference to what? Coherent syndrome of personal life satisfaction plus political satisfaction plus interpersonal trust plus support for the existing social order. So it's a coherent syndrome of personal life satisfaction, political satisfaction, interpersonal trust, and support for the existing social order. And Ronald says that if this coherent syndrome is very high, then there is more likely to be stable democracies. That means for stable democracies, the coherent syndrome which was talked by Ronald, that coherent syndrome had to be of a high degree. Okay, so that is what he's talking about, the civic culture. Then we got the historic perspective of political culture. This was given by Brooke and Ho, and they said that in this political culture, social movements and the struggle for political power, they should also be included. That means they said that the scope should be widened and it should include social movements also and their struggle for political culture. Then it talked about, then there was social capital and political culture. This was given by Robert Putnam, and Robert Putnam gave this concept by studying or by working on Italian regional government. He did working on the Italian regional governments, and according to that, he gave the concept of social capital, and he tried to analyze people's engagement in politics. That means this social capital concept was given by Putnam, and Putnam, what he did, he conducted study on Italian regional governments, and according to it, he gave a concept of social capital, and this social capital was helpful in analyzing people's conception or people's attitude into politics. And here social capital, according to Putnam, is what? It refers to the networks, shared norms, values, and understanding that facilitate cooperation among the group. That means there are networks, there are shared norms, there are values, there are understandings which will facilitate cooperation. So this is what is Putnam's. And what about political culture and ideology? This was basically the Marxist viewpoint. That means the Marxists, they emphasized that there is two type of apparatus. One is the repressive state apparatus and the other one is the ideological state apparatus. Repressive state apparatus is coercive, whereas the ideological state apparatus, it operates on the basis of ideology. So the Marxists say that the dominant class, it always wants to have their dominance, and as a result of which they always try to destroy, they always try to disseminate the prevailing value system and knowledge structure in the political desk. So this was this ideological concept. It was given by neo-Marxist scholars like Louis Althusser. Okay, he was a neo-Marxist scholar. And then came the subculture within political culture. Now, subculture within political culture means there are multiple cultures within political culture. This was what was there. That means these multiple cultures are because in a country there are diverse identities and behaviors. So there will be diverse social groups. So all these we try to study. Now today, so political culture entirely we finished. Okay? And political culture elements and verbas, or civic culture, or that of the historical perspective with that of the social capital and ideology and subcultures. So you have to go with each and every topic. So once again, I'll tell each and every students who are enrolled in this course with us that we are going into in depth with each and every topic. And as we finish one topic, we will be having an MCQ session. And in that MCQ session, as per the time allotted, that is 2 hours, the number of MCQs, the maximum number of MCQs which we can do, we will do it, so that each and every topic with regard to the MCQ pattern will also be clear to you. Okay. So please remember, we are going to finish up the approaches, that is contemporary politics approaches. The last one will be the systems approach, which was given by David Aston. Today we will discuss about that systems approach in detail and in very simple manner. Okay. So that you can do the revision part, or you can prepare the approaches part from whatever book you have in your home. Okay. So from my side, I'll only request one thing. Whatever we are doing, the topics, it's all syllabus bound topics, and you have to also go through that topics with your respective materials which you have in your home. And one guidance I gave you, that please get a IGNOU material for BA and MA if you can, because that will be really very helpful. The IGNOU material for BA and MA, BA Political Science and MA Political Science IGNOU materials, that they are very, very important. Apart from that, Drishti IAS will be giving you whatever they have promised as materials which they will be providing to you. So for that, you have to contact the coordinators. Every student has a coordinator who is regular in touch with that student. So you can contact the coordinators there. Okay. So let's go with the limitations with regard to political culture. Now, what will be the limitations with regard to the political culture? First of all, the critics of the political culture approach argue that it tends to generalize the national political culture of a society and overlook the subcultures based on race, class, caste, religion, and other factors that may have different political culture. That means the critics, they are criticizing political culture on the grounds of generalization. Generalization in the sense, they say that the political culture approach has generalized national political culture. That means they have generalized a national political culture of a country. But on the other hand, what they have avoided is that, what they have overlooked is that the subcultures which are based on race, class, caste, religion, and other factors which may have different political culture. That means the first criticism is on the grounds of generalization of national political culture of a society. That means the proponents of political culture approach, they have they have generalized a national political culture of a society, and as a result they have overlooked the subcultures based on race, class. That means every country has a subculture, and this subculture is based on race, class, caste, gender, religion, and many other factors. And each subculture, they have their own political culture. So as a result, you cannot generalize that this nation will have a national political culture like this. So this is what is the first criticism which the critics have done, that is, this particular approach tends to generalize the national political culture of a society. Second, the approach lacks a comprehensive account of its origin and evolution in social science, hindering the development of historical understanding of the concept. That means this political culture approach has failed to give an comprehensive means in detailed account about its history, about its origin, about its evolution. That means no one knows in detail what was the origin, evolution or history of the political culture in social science. That means how did it evolve? How did it come up in the social science? There is no comprehensive account, as a result of which we cannot understand the historical developments. We cannot have a historical understanding with regard to this concept. So the second point is that it lacks historical understanding. Why it lacks historical understanding? Because there is no comprehensive account of its origin and evolution in social science. So first criticism was on the grounds of generalization, and generalization of what? Generalization of the national political culture of the society. Okay. Third, that political culture studies have primarily focused on Western democracies, limiting the scope of analysis and creating Western dominance perspective. That means this political culture, whether it was Almond and Verbas, they conducted comparative studies in 5 countries. Whether it was Putnam's, he did it in Italian regional governments. So whatever studies, whatever focus this political culture approach is doing, it's only on the Western democracies. And when it's only on the Western democracies, as a result of which it shows, the analysis are showing a Western dominated perspective. That means they are somewhat showing the dominance of Western democracies, or they are showing the dominance of Western thoughts. So this political culture, third limitations or third criticism is on the grounds of Western democracy. That means it's only focusing on Western democracies. As a result, it's limiting the scope of analysis. That is, its scope of analysis is not the entire world. Its scope of analysis is only with regard to the Western democracies. And because its scope of analysis is limited, so it's creating a Western dominance perspective, a dominated perspective. Then this approach has been criticized for reducing cultural factors to social system. That means it has been criticized for reducing cultural factors to social system. Characteristics or statistical aggregation of individual orientations, resulting in a narrow understanding of the cultural factors that shape politics. That means here one more criticism is on the grounds of cultural factors. That means the cultural factors are reduced to social system. That means the cultural factors are limited to social system. Here the cultural factors are only shown with perspective to the social system. They are limited to the social system, not beyond the social system. So as a result of which, when this approach has reduced cultural factors to social system, then it results to what? It results to a narrow understanding of the cultural factors that shape politics. So we have a narrow understanding. Then the cross-national survey method. The cross-national survey method. Cross-national survey method was what? Survey method across the 5 countries. The cross-national survey method used in political culture studies may inaccurately assume equal leverage and subscription to dominant cultural patterns among all members of the society, disregarding variations in individual capabilities and access to politics. That means there was a cross-national survey method. We all know Almond and Verbas did it, the cross-national survey method, and they tried to study the comparative study in the 5 countries and thereby analyzing human behavior towards politics. So they were trying to analyze human behavior towards politics. How? By studying the 5 countries, political systems in 5 countries. So this cross-national survey method, it's actually what it is doing is that it's inaccurately assuming equal leverage. Leverage in the sense here is responsibility, like that. So it's inaccurately assuming equal leverage and subscription to dominant cultural patterns. That means it's giving more significance to dominant cultural factors among all members of the society. So as a result of which, it's disregarding variations in individual capabilities and access to. So it's disregarding the individual capabilities. It's disregarding the individual's access to politics. And thereby, it's only, focus is on what? Equal leverage and subscription to dominant cultural pattern. Then the critics also argue that political culture approach tends to favor the status quo and the interest of ruling elites. That is, it's favoring the elites, neglecting the needs for the social and political change to promote democracy and values such as justice and equality. That means political culture approach is also criticized on the grounds that it's only favoring the elite. It's only favoring the elite, thereby it's neglecting the need for social and political democracy. So it's neglecting the need for social and political change in democracy. As a result, it's neglecting the very ideas of equality and justice. So this is what is the grounds on which this political, culture was criticized. And apart from that, scholars like Ronald and Welzel have sought to address the deficiencies of this approach. It's nothing to do with it. Leave this point. But the criticisms you should know. First one was with the generalization one, that this political culture approach, it's basically generalizing the national political culture of a society. It's generalizing what? The national political culture of a society. And thereby it's overlooking what? The subcultures which are based on race, class, caste, religion and other factors which may have different political cultures. Second is that it lacks comprehensive account. That means there is no comprehensive account of its origin, evaluation, as a result of which we cannot have a historical understanding of the culture, of the concept. Third, it's primarily focused on Western democracies. Thereby, it's neglecting other areas. Okay? And it's also criticized that because it's focusing on Western democracies, so it's trying to create Western dominated tumhara perspective. Then the fourth grounds on which the criticisms was that this particular approach is trying to reduce cultural factors to social system. It's trying to reduce the cultural factors to social system only. Thereby, what it's trying to do, it's trying to give a narrow understanding. This approach is it's talking about culture, but it's only limiting, reducing cultural factors to social system. Only to social system, only to the society. Thereby, it's giving a narrow understanding of cultural factors that shape politics. Then there was in this political culture approach, there was a cross-nation study. There's a cross-national survey method used. And in this cross-national survey method, what happens is that only they assumed about what? They assumed about equal leverage and subscription to dominant cultural patterns. That means they said that among all members of the society, there is a dominant culture pattern which is there, which is equal. So as a result, they are ignoring what? They are ignoring individual capabilities and access to politics. And last but not the least, this political culture approach, it was criticized on the grounds that it is only favoring the elite. It is only favoring the interest of the ruling elite, thereby neglecting the social and political change which needs to be brought to promote democracy. That means it's neglecting the social and political change which needs to be brought to promote democracy. As a result, it's neglecting the very idea of justice and equality. So these were the 6 grounds on which political culture it was criticized. I hope it's clear to each and every one of you. If it is clear, to please just give a thumbs up, or you can tell me. Okay, so this was what is political culture. So we have done the entire political culture, and now today, to end up with this approach, we have to go with systems approach. Which approach? Systems approach. Now, when we go with the systems approach, please remember that we have to know the characteristic of the systems approach. But before going into the characteristics of the systems approach, I will give you a very good diagrammatic presentation of the systems approach. It will be a flow chart now. Wait for that. But before that, let's see what are the characteristics actually telling. First of all, the systems approach is a theoretical framework. There will be a framework. Framework means there will be input, there will be output, there will be feedback, there will be political function, there will be a word called entities. So it's a theoretical framework used in comparative politics to study political systems as complex interconnected entities. That means this systems approach is basically trying to study political system. It's basically trying to study political system through a theoretical framework. There is a theoretical framework developed, and with that theoretical framework, we are trying to have a comparative study of political system. And we know that this political system is complex as well as they are interconnected entities. Entities means, here entities means elements or units. They are interconnected entities or interconnected units. Then the second characteristic says that it views political system as dynamic and self-regulating system with various components and subcomponents. That means here, when we are talking about comparative politics, and that too when we are studying comparative politics with regard to political system, then here this approach says that the political system is dynamic. It will keep on changing. It will never be static, as said by the traditional approach. It will never be static. It is dynamic. And when it is dynamic, then it is a self-regulating system also. Self-regulating means it will correct itself also. It will change itself also. That is only what is self-regulating. That means when I'll show you Aston's system analysis, there will be a term called as output. The output will result to input. Okay, the output will result to input. You can see it. So here in this system approach, the proponents of this approach, they are of the view that this systems approach is talking about a political system they view the political system as dynamic, which is changing, as well as self-regulating system. Self-regulating means it tries to check itself, it tries to correct itself, it tries to change itself. So it's a self-regulating system, and there are many components and sub-components. That means there are many units, there are many elements to this entire political system. And all these units, all these subsystems, they are interconnected to each other. So there is interconnection, there is sub-regulation, that is self-regulation, and there is a complex system. So this all makes what? A theoretical framework. Chalo aage. The approach emphasizes on interdependentness and interaction between the different elements within the political system. That means when I said there are various elements, there are various subsystems, and all these subsystems are interconnected, all these subsystems are interrelated, and there is an interaction that takes place between various elements. And here it is considered inputs, then throughputs, outputs, feedback and the environment as the key component of the system. So the very key component of the system is the political environment, the inputs. Now here input is what? Demand and support. I'll tell you about that. Input is demand and support. And there is an output. Output is whatever, whatever decision which the individuals are, whatever decision which the political system is taking, that is the output. And with that comes the feedback. With that comes what? The feedback. So the most important element of this political system is what? The input, the throughput, the output, feedback, as well as the environment. And here environment means the political environment. They are very key. And the systems approach analyze how political system adapt and respond to internal and external changes. That means always in a political system, there are internal challenges also, and there are external challenges also. Now, how this dynamic political system, it will respond to these internal challenges and external challenges, because the response to these internal and external challenges only depends the survival of the political system. देखो, कोई भी political system हो, कोई भी political system, David Aston has already said the political system's main aim is to survive. And if it has to survive, it has to perform two functions. ठीक है? तो this is what is this. Plus, तो characteristic में हमने क्या पढ़ा? कि there is a theoretical framework with regard to systems approach, and here in this system approach there is a theoretical framework, and here we are trying to study political systems as complex as well as interconnected entities. Entities means elements or units. Plus here they view the political system as dynamic and self-regulating system with various components and subsystems. And these components and subsystems, they are interdependent, they are there are interactions between them, okay? And as a result, there are interactions which take place between the elements within the political system. So the most important elements are like that of the input, the output, the feedback, the political environment and all. And according to this approach, it is also said that every political system has to deal with internal and external changes. So they have to deal, they have to adapt, they have to respond with the internal and external changes. Any doubt with regard to the introduction part? Yes? Anyone who has any doubt? See, I have a system here, and that system shows me the live chat. And the live chat is nothing else, but it is a medium through which you people can tell me whatever doubts you have. If you have any doubts, you can just write it down there. You can just write it down, and it can come in front of me, and I can give you a reply and solve your doubt. चलो आगे बढ़ते हैं. Then comes the David Aston's system analysis. Dekho, David Aston, he is seen as a person who pioneered the system analysis in political science. And his famous work, please remember this name of the work. In 1965, his famous work is A System Analysis of Political Life. A systems analysis of political life. And this systems analysis of political life, it introduced a new concept of understanding political phenomena, and that new concept was what? Systems analysis. Okay? And this was studied on the basis of what? On the basis of scientific method rather than normative approaches. A scientific method rather than normative approaches. Dekho, now what I'll do is that I'll try to use a flow chart here. Okay? Now you all have to go with this flow chart. If you want to copy, you can copy it. See, David Aston, first he talks about a system. Please write here system. Now, what is a system? First, we should know what is a system. System means what? There are various elements, there are various entities, and all these elements, all these entities, they come together and they make a group. There are various elements and entities, and these elements and entities or units, they all come together and they make a group. And when they make a group, they all interact with each other. And when they interact with each other, it makes a system. Got it? So let's define system. What is this system? System is when elements, units, entities come together and form a group. They come together and form a group. Okay? They all are coming together and they are forming a group, comma, they interact with each other, and this is the system. So if you want to understand this systems analysis, first you should know what is system. Please, if it is clear, अगर आप लोगों को दिखाई दे रहा है, then please tell me if you are able to see. Yes, it's clear. If you are able to see, please tell me. Okay. अगर कहीं पे कोई words में कोई doubt हो रहा है, you can just write it, you can just tell me in the live chat. Okay. So first what I did was that I gave you the very definition of system. And what is this very definition of system? The very definition of system is that systems are nothing else but there are elements, there are units, there are entities which all come together and they form a group. And when they form a group, they all interact with each other. And this interaction makes the system. Okay. Now, in a nation, there are many systems which come, which operate. Like economic system is there, like political system is there, like social system is there, like cultural system is there. So there are many systems which operate. But here, Aston is saying that the most important system is nothing else but it is the political system. So Aston is saying that the most important system in a nation is, or in a state, is nothing else but it is the political system. even though there are many systems which are operating. See, David Aston's theory will be completely, I'm guaranteeing you, have patience, write it down, आपको पूरी अच्छी तरह समझ में आ जाए. So, according to David Aston, it is the political system which is very important. And he says that this political system, it is made up of what? It is made up of entities or elements or units. So this political system, it's made up of what? Entities, elements and units. Now, what are these entities, elements and units? What are these entities, elements and units? See, I said you, every system is made up of elements, entities and units, and they form a group and they interact. That is called system. So when David Aston is saying that political system is the most important system, so here this system will be made up of entities, elements and units. So what are these entities, elements and units? These are political institutions, comma, politicians, comma, leaders, etc. So these entities which make up the political system, they are the political institutions, politicians and leaders. And according to these definition, what will happen? According to this definition, what will happen? There will be an interaction between all the political entities or units. ठीक है, clear है? So when a political system is talked about, this political system is made up of entities, elements and units, and this entity, elements and units are what? It is the political institution, it is the politician and the leaders, etc. So they all will, what they will do? They will interact. There will be an interaction between all the political entities and units. Okay? There will be an interaction between all the political entities and units. And this interaction will lead to what? This interaction will lead to nothing else, but it will lead to communication. It will lead to what? Communication, obligation. It will lead to communication, obligation, and you can say influence. That means when these entities, they interact, there will be a communication channel created in that political system. Am I right? A communication channel will be created. That who has to report to whom, who has to talk with whom, like that. At the same time, obligation will be created. Obligation means what? Responsibility. And at the same time, influences will be also created. So, this is what will be created. Now, there is a question which Aston asked here. And what is the question? That how political system is different. How political system is different from other system. That means there is a question asked, how political system is different from other system. Yeah, what makes the political system different from other systems? Yes, anyone who has the answer? Anyone? Anyone who has the answer? No. Here we are talking about how political system is different from other systems. So when we say how political system is different from other systems, reply of Aston is what? Unique function performed by political system. Hanji, till now, is it clear to everyone? Yes. Till now, is it clear to everyone? First, we are talking about David Aston. See, let's go into the characteristics. David Aston was the pioneer of a new concept, and that was system analysis. And in his famous work in 1965, and what was the name of his famous work? A System Analysis of Political Life. What was the name of his work? A Systems Analysis of Political Life. And here he is talking about a need of scientific method. Okay? So what I said was that he is talking about a system. Let me choose a different color. He is talking about a system. What is this particular system? This system is nothing else but they are the units, entities and entities which all come together and they form a group and they interact with each other, and this is referred as what? System. Now there are many systems which operate, but it is the political system which is very important. And what is this political system? This political system is made up of entities, elements and units. And what are these entities, elements and units of which this political system is made? It is made up of political institution, politicians, leaders, etc. And when these political institutions, politicians and leaders, according to this system definition, when they interact with each other, that means there is an interaction between all the political entities and units. Then as a result, a communication channel, obligation and influence comes up. That means a communication channel is coming up, influences, obligation means responsibilities, they all are coming up. But a very important question now is being asked by David Aston is to why is political system so different? Yeah, what is the difference between political system and other system? David Aston gives a reply that political system is so important. Why? Because political system performs a very unique function which other systems do not perform. Political system performs a very unique function which other systems do not perform. Now you might be thinking, so what is this unique function which political system performs? Let me write it down for you. Unique function performed the spelling of performed is wrong. Unique function performed by political system. See, this topic I am explaining you in a writing format. Why? Because I think it's very important. Okay, and it has a diagram, it has a flowchart here. Now this unique function performed by the political system. Now what is this unique function? Can anybody tell me what is this unique function? This unique function is nothing else but it is what? Let me write it. Authoritative allocation of values. Got it? So David Aston says that this is the most unique function which political system perform. Authoritative allocation of resources. See, here it's written. Look at this. The authoritative allocation of resources. That means he's trying to say that the unique function which the political system performs is the authoritative allocation of resources. That's why, because it is performing this unique function, that's why political system is different from other systems in the country or in the nation. Now, let us understand each and every word of this function. Here, first of all, you should know what is the meaning of this value. The meaning of this values is nothing else but it is resources. It's with reference to the resources. This is what the values. The resources can be in the form of education. The resources can be in the form of health. The resources can be in the form of abiotic things. So the resources can be anything. It can be human beings. It can be education. It can be health. So the resources, the values are what? The resources. Allocation means what? Allocation means distribution. Allocation means distribution. But what about authoritative? Authoritative means it's with regard to decision backed by authority. Decision backed by authority or power. Got it? नहीं, समझ में नहीं आया? Authority or power or force. That means it is the political system which is distributing the resources, and the political system says that whatever resources are being distributed, it is being distributed and this is the final decision, you have to accept it. Authoritative. जैसे एक example देता हूं to make you understand this word authoritative, that decision backed by authority or power. I'll make you understand it with a very simple example. We see in the streets that there are red lights, traffic signals होते हैं, am I right? Now, do we obey those traffic signals? Yes. Nowadays, we obey it. Why? Because there are cameras fitted, and those cameras, they click photo, and the challans are and the fines are sent directly to our home by post. Now, what is that traffic signal? There is a straight road, but that traffic signal is nothing else but it is a constraint. It is a barrier. Now, that constraint is that if there is a red light, you have to stop. And that too before a what? Zebra crossing. So that is a decision backed by authority. That is a decision backed by authority. That means this is the traffic signal, this is the red light. When it glows, then you have to stop. And if you don't stop, you are going to be fined. What is that? That means there is a pressure used. There is a force being used. There is a power being used. Okay. So for us to stop in that traffic light, we always look at the three lights: red, yellow, red, orange, and green. If it is green, we are free to move. We are free to go. there is no stoppage. But if it is red, then we have to stop there. Even though how, मतलब जितनी भी हड़बड़ी हो, जितनी भी जल्दी हो, even we are a VIP, we have to stop there. Because that is a decision which is backed by the law. That is the law made by the traffic police. So traffic police is what? Traffic police is an authority. It has a power. It has a force to make law for us. And we have to abide by that law. If we do not abide by the law, then the state or the administration, it is going to punish us with regard to fine, or even they can take away our car. That is what is the authoritative meaning here. So here, Aston says that every political system, they perform a very unique function, and that unique function is nothing else but it is with regard to authoritative allocation of values. And in this authoritative allocation of values, whatever are the resources, they are distributed. They are distributed by the political system. But whatever distribution is being done, that decision is backed by a power, it's backed by an authority or force. That means every individual in the society, they have to accept that distribution of resource. They have to accept that distribution of resource. They cannot go against it. If they go against it, then the state will take an action. That is what is David Aston saying. So David Aston says that this unique function, no other system in the nation performs. So, okay? So here, when I say authoritative, then it means what? It means that authoritative means everyone has to accept the decision. Everyone has to accept the decision. That is, you can say everyone has to accept the political decision. I can say it as everyone has to accept the political decision. And if anyone doesn't accept it, if anyone doesn't accept it, it will be forcibly accepted. Okay? Is it clear now? Hanji, सबको clear हो गया? So the unique function, let's switch back to this. We are talking about system, political system. It's made up of entities, elements and units. And what are these entities, elements and units? These are the political institutions, politicians, leaders, etc. They are interacting with each other, and all of these, when they interact, then it leads to communication channel, obligation and influences. But here there is a question as to why political system is only different from other systems, because political system, it performs a very unique function, and this unique function which it performs is authoritative allocation of resources. What is that? Authoritative allocation of resources. And in this authoritative allocation of resources, values, resources refers to what? Resources refers to education, health, land, okay, human, individuals, you can say. So resources are many. Plus, it should be distributed, and that is a political decision. That political decision, it's backed by authority or power or force. And if anyone doesn't accept it, then it will be forcibly accepted. That means they have to accept, they will be made to accept forcibly. That means force will be used. Okay. Now, let's differentiate it now. Second thing here, second thing which Aston talks about is that, do you know what is the aim of every political system? Aston just gives this question that what is the aim of every political system? The aim is nothing else but its survival. Every political system's aim is survival. And Aston says that for survival, political system needs to perform two functions. See, he says that for survival, the political system needs to perform two functions. That means now he will be talking about the two functions which every political system needs to perform. And I'll tell you, ये जो दो functions है ना, वो इसी से based है. ये जो दो functions हैं which every political system needs to perform, it's on the base of this. First function is resources, that is values, needs to be distributed. Resources या values needs to be distributed in the society. मतलब what is the function? Resources या values, they need to be distributed in the society. And the second function is what? All members in the society, all members in the society accept this distribution. Matlab, because the distribution is done by a political system, and this political system or this political decision is backed by an authority. So the second function is that all members of the society, they need to accept this decision. That means here, if we summarize it, here, यहाँ पे Aston is talking about the function of decision and command. Here he is talking about the function of decision and command. ठीक है? And here he is talking about the function of what? Can anybody say me? Here he is talking about the function of what? क्या कोई कुछ बता सकता है? हाँ जी, anyone? Here he is talking about implementation and obeyed. And you can also say command. And you can also say force. So there are two functions which every political system has to perform for survival. Dekho, whatever I have written, please copy it down. The sequence in which I am writing. See, this was the first thing which I described. I said that the unique function which is performed by the political system It's authoritative allocation of values. Here values refers to the resources which are distributed. So whatever there is distribution of resource, this is only what is the first function. That means there are two functions which every political system performs just to survive. And what is the first function? It is with regard to the allocation of values. That means whatever resources or values, they need to be distributed in the society. And if you evaluate it, distribution of resources in the society, what is this function? This function is with regard to what? Decision and command. That means you are taking a decision and you are trying to distribute it. That is commanded. And the second one is what? Authoritative. Authoritative means whatever command, whatever decision you have taken with regard to allocation of resources, that is backed by a power, that is backed by a force, that is backed by an authority. So this gives the second function. The second function is what? The second function is all the members in the society have to accept. I'm using the word have to. That means it is obligatory. It is obligatory for them to accept this distribution. Otherwise, if they will not accept the distribution, then what will happen? They will be forcibly accepted. They will be made to accept by force. So here we are talking about the function of what? Implementation. Things are being implemented. Implemented means power is being used. They have to obey it. Who has to obey it? The members have to obey it. Whatever decision, whatever political decision is there, it has to be obeyed. And there is a command which has to be obeyed. Plus, there is a force which is used. If not. Okay. So this is what is the, you can say, second part. Okay. Now, ठीक है, कोई दिक्कत? So, main aim of the political system is what? Survival. Now then, Aston says that, just a minute. Now then, Aston says that apart from, Aston says, apart from survival, it is also important for the political system. It is also important for the political system to control external factors. See, as I said you here, when I was giving you the characteristics, when we were talking about the characteristics, see here, I said you there are a lot of internal and external factors here. That means political systems have to adapt and respond to the internal and external changes. They have to adapt. So that's what is Aston talking about. Aston says that if you are performing these two functions, you are surviving. As a political system, you are surviving. But what about the control over external factors? You have to control over it. If you do not control over the external factors, then your political system, your internal political system, it will be finished. Take for example, there is a country, for example, an outside country, it had war with our country, and as a result of which our country lost that war with that outside country. Now, after the loss in the war, the political system is trying to give political decisions. As a result of which, what will happen? The members of the society, they do not accept those decisions. Why? Because the political system lost to that external force. And when that political system lost to that external force, it's lost the authority over its members. Got it? It lost the authority over its members. समझ रहे हो क्या बोलना चाह रहा हूं? Got it? That means if India would have lost the war against Bangladesh, then the popularity of Indira Gandhi would have gone down to zero. And Indira Gandhi's government would have fallen. So there would have been a political system collapse in India. That's what is taking place in Pakistan. Dekh lo, that's what is taking place in Pakistan. There is a political system collapse. And when there is a political system collapse, then what will happen? Whatever policies, whatever things, whatever decisions the political system is trying to bring up, it will not be accepted by the members of the society. So what Aston is telling is that, okay, the most important function of most important aim of political system is survival. But once you have survived, then you have to also look into the external factors. You have to control those external factors so that those external factors do not impact your internal political system. That is what is Prime Minister Modi trying to do. Look at that. In the international arena, he is trying to become a strong leader. As a result of which, no one is able to challenge him internally with regard to external policies and all. Take for the example the Uri attack which the government of India did. Why did the government of India did that Uri attack? Because many of our soldiers, they died. And when many of our soldiers, they died, then it was a question mark on the security, on the national security with regard to that of India. And the BJP government always used to talk about the national security, national security, national security. So there was a question mark with regard to the stern action which the government will take. People were looking for that. And when that Uri incidents took place, Uri attack took place on Pakistan, on the Indian soldiers, they went into the Pakistan side, they destroyed the terrorist camps out there. Then what was that? That was a joyous movement. That was a proud moment for the country. I'm just giving you a realistic example to this. I'm just trying to give you a realistic example. That means there was survival, but also the external forces were being controlled. And why the external forces were controlled? Because if the external forces are not controlled, then the internal political system will collapse. Okay? So, according to David Aston, system analysis, the aim of political system is survival as well as the control over external forces. ठीक है जी? Any doubts with regard to this? अभी खत्म नहीं हुआ है. Now, David Aston says that political system is influenced by, देखो, every political system is influenced by some or the other things. Am I right? Every political system is influenced by some or the other thing. देखो, इसी को इसने theoretical framework बताया. There are many subsystems inside it. There are many entities and all of them interact with each other. Am I right? ठीक है, चलो, अब तक समझ में आ गया? So political system is influenced by what? Political system, it is influenced by two things. One is input and the other one is output. So every political system, it's influenced by two things. Let me cut this short because आगे और करना पड़ेगा. every political system, it's influenced by two things. One is input and the other one is what? Output. Input as well as output. Now, what is this input? The input further, Aston says, is divides into two. One is demand and the other one is what? Support. Not supply, it's support. One is demand and the other one is what? Support. Now, demand is what? Demand is nothing else, but let's give an example. It's expression. It's what? Expression, or you can say opinion. This is the demand, and it's negative. It's a negative perspective. And what about the support? Support is nothing else but if people, they pay taxes, paying taxes. This is a support for the government. Then obeying government rules. This is also a support, plus policy. That means obeying government rules, policies and all. So, Aston says that every political system is influenced by input as well as output. In input, there is demand and support. That is, the demand is the expression. That means people, they demand things. They say that this should happen, this should not happen, that should happen. We want increased salaries, we want this. The teachers say that no, we want housing, free housing facilities. The poor say that we want free food. So this is the demand. Demands are what? Demands are the expressions of the members of the society. They are the, you can say, they are the opinions of the members of the society. And these expressions and opinions can be negative. But what about the support? The support to the political system is like we pay taxes, regular taxes to the political system. We obey the rules and the policies made by the political system. That is a support. Okay? Now, what about the output? Outputs are nothing else but these are the decisions taken by the political system. These are the decisions which are taken by the political system, or you can say authorities. And these decisions, we all know, which are taken by the political system or authorities, they are what? They are backed by power, they are backed by force, they are backed by authority. So every member has to accept it. Am I right? Every member has to accept it. Now, these outputs are what? Decisions. Let me finish it. Let me finish writing it, then it will be easy. Now, these outputs affect the inputs. You might be wondering, ki sir, how the outputs will be affecting the inputs? These output affect the input as per their outcome. And what is the outcome? The outcome further gives what? The outcome further gives a very important thing, that is feedback. The outcome is giving a very important thing, that is feedback. That means the outputs are the decisions which are taken by the political system or authority, and these decisions or output can influence, can have an effect on the input, they can have a consequence, and these consequences are a result of what? Feedback. That means there is a feedback from the members of the society. Now, if the feedback is good, let me tell you, if the feedback is good, then it is a support. If the feedback is good, then it is what? A support thing for us. But if the feedback is negative, then it results to what? It results to a demand. So again, this feedback converts into what? Inputs. Then that input is what? Output. On regard to that input, there is an output. Again, there will be a feedback. So this is what is the system analysis which we are talking about. Any doubts? Now, tell me. इसी को throughput भी कहते हैं. Any doubt? चलो जी बोलो. Anyone who has any doubts, please tell me. So the entire system has finished. देखो, let's sum up. 3 चीजों में मैंने बताया. ठीक है? करें दोबारा. Let's do it once again and then we'll go into the criticism part also. We have to complete that also. Okay. देखो, David Aston, when we talk about David Aston, his famous book is what? A Systems. His famous book is with regard to what? Let me change the color. His famous book is what? A System Analysis of Political Life. A System Analysis of Political Life, 1965. And this work helped in understanding the political phenomena, and he emphasized on the need of scientific methods in political analysis. He talked about a scientific method in political analysis rather than normative approaches. Okay? Then he talks about the authoritative allocation of values. I said you know, the most unique function which the political system performs, as a result of which the political system is different from other systems, is authoritative allocation of values. And values refers to what? Resources. Allocation refers to what? Distribution. And authoritative refers to what? The political decision which is backed by authority, which is backed by force. And this political decision has to be accepted by everyone. It's obligatory on everyone. And if anyone does not accept it, it will be accepted by force. Force will be applied. That is what is authoritative allocation of resource. And a political system which is set on interactions for value and value allocation. See, I gave you an interaction. Interaction of what? Interaction of input, output, feedback, then input, output, feedback. So there is an interaction going on. And the main source of this interaction is what? The main source of this interaction is allocation values. That means the resources have to be allocated. That is the main source of this entire system. And Aston, he also viewed political system as a dynamic and self-regulating. See, dynamic and self-regulating. Dynamic means it is changing. Self-regulating how? Because of that feedback, again the input, again the process starts. So with every input, every feedback, there is some good as well as some negative feedback. The good feedback will be a support for that political system. The negative feedback will be a demand for that political system. So again, it will take decision with regard to that. So that's what is self-regulating. Okay. And feedback here, see, feedback according to Aston is playing a very crucial role. And that too when informations are transmitted between the environment and the political system. So this is what I said about this. Chalo, आगे भी देखते हैं what is said here, which I have showed in this typed format. He also says that Aston's figure also says that political system may face stresses. Now here, stresses they are talking about. It can be a demand stress or a support stress. I mentioned it as what? I mentioned it as input. The input can be demand stress or it can be support stress. Support stress is what? Positive. Demand stress is what? Negative. So here they are saying that the political system may face stresses, that is input, that is demand stress and support stress, but you need to balance and adjust it. And structural bases such as elections, political powers, parties, public beliefs are essential for the survival. That means for the survival of political system, I said you, for the survival of political system, the political system has to perform two vital functions. And one function is with regard to decision and control, that is allocation of resources, and the other one is with regard to implementation as well as obeying and force. And that implementation is what? Decision with regard to the implementation of whatever has been planned. So this overall Aston's theory portrays political system as an input-output mechanism dealing with political decision and activity. So it's an input-output mechanism. Is it clear? Inputs are this, it goes with output, outputs a feedback, good feedback, support, negative feedback, input, again it goes in input. So apart from survival ke liye what is there? There are two functions to be performed. One, resources or values need to be distributed in the society. This is the first function. And all members of the society have to accept this distribution. That means the two functions for survival are these two. Then survival ke alawa, there is one more aim, that is to control the external forces. Because if the external forces are not controlled, the internal political system will collapse, as no one will listen to, no one will accept their authority, and it will collapse. I gave you the example of Uri and of India, Bangladesh and all. So the internal system will collapse. And what are the factors, what are the things by which, what are the elements by which political system is influenced? Input as well as output. Okay, so this is what is there. But let's go into the criticism. Criticism is that the critics argue that the system's approach overemphasized complex political phenomena by reducing them to abstract concepts and models. That means the critics say that this system's approach, it is giving more emphasis, it's giving overemphasis to the complex political system. It's giving more emphasis to the complex political phenomena, and it's trying to represent the entire thing in models and in abstract concepts. Plus, it's also neglected cultural, historical, and individual factors that influence politics. That means these factors are neglected out here. Then the critics also question the assumption or system of equilibrium and stability. That means the input and output one, they are saying, that means the demand stress and the support stress. So they are saying that there is an assumption that the system equilibrium and stability, arguing that political systems are often characterized by conflict and power struggles. So they say that in political system there are conflicts, there are power struggles. So how can there be equilibrium and balance? And the last one is that it is accused of lacking empirical precision and being difficult to test and validate. So no one can test its validity. They are saying this. Okay. So with regard to the criticism, it's criticized on the grounds that it is overemphasizing the complex political phenomena and is reducing them to what? It's reducing them to abstract concept and models. Then it's overlooking, it's neglecting the importance of cultural, historical, and individual factors that influence politics. Plus here there is an assumption of equilibrium and balance, and they say that in a political system there is political power, there is conflict, which also plays a very important role. And the last one is that they lack empirical precision and it's difficult to test and validate. So we can say overall that this particular systems approach, it's a theoretical framework which is actually trying to show the interaction between various elements in the political system or various entities in the political system. And these entities, they are interrelatedness. There is an interrelatedness, there is an interaction, as well as they are self-regulating entities. This is what we are playing. And the feedback is the most important concept which we talk about. Okay, so have you noted down this, the systems approach? Everyone, have you noted down the systems approach? And any doubt, you can just straight away ask me if you have any doubt. The entire systems approach we have done. And this was a very important approach. I'm telling you, very, very important. Very important. And yes, this all we have completed. Now the final thing is with regard to which one? Structural functionalism. Now let's go with this structural functionalism. After systematic approach, after systems approach, structural functionalism. Now in structural functionalism, the main focus is on the functions performed by political structure. Here, the main focus, that is, this structural functionalism approach in comparative politics, its main focus is on explaining the functions of political structure. That means every political structure, there are functions which they perform. So in this structural functionalism, the focus is on the functions of the political structure. Please write it down. It focuses on what? It focuses on the functions of the political structure. Then it involves comparing political system by understanding the functions performed by different structures within those systems. That means in a political system, there are political structures. Now each structure is performing various functions. Am I right? Now what functions they are performing, understanding those functions itself is what we do in this. That means in this structural functionalism, we say that there are political structures within the political system, and each political structure is performing a function. So understanding and comparing the functions of political structure within the political system, that is what is structural functionalism. That means if I talk about structural functionalism, first is focus on function performed by political structures. Focus on functions performed by political structures. Okay. Then second one is comparing political systems by understanding and studying the functions performed by each political structure within the political system. ठीक है जी? Any doubt? So here we are talking about what? We are talking about focus on functions performed by political structure, then comparing political systems by understanding and studying the functions of performed by political structure within the political system. That means within every political system there are political structures. So we will try to understand and study those political structures and then compare the political systems. Different political systems ko compare karenge. Okay. Then comes the next part, that is structures within a political system are arrangements that perform functions which can be simple or complex. That means the structures, they are performing what? Functions. So they are arrangements and they perform functions which are simple and complex. That means the political structure, they perform simple functions also, they perform complex functions also. Then the functions are what? The functions are observed consequences. That means observed consequences means observed outcomes, observe results. So these functions are observed consequences that contribute to adaptation or readjustment of a system. That means, see, David Aston talks about output. Output say there is a what? Output say there is a consequence, that is the result, and that consequence gives what? That consequence gives a feedback. Here in the structural functionalism, what they are saying is that the political system are arranged in structures and the structures are performing functions. These functions can be simple or complex. Pehla baat. Now, what are these functions? These functions are observed consequences. Matlab wo consequences which we can see, which we can observe. That means the consequences can be good as well as the consequences can be bad. So these consequences are observed consequences, and due to these observed consequences, either there can be adaptation or there can be readjustment of the political system. That means if the consequences are good, it will be adapted, and if the consequences are bad or negative, there will be a readjustment to the political system. That means the demand stress will come. ठीक है? Clear? समझ में आ रहा है? चलो, very good. Then the structural functional approach gained prominence in the 1960s and became a dominant mode of explanation in political science. चलो ठीक है, वो तो सबको पता है. And कौन थे इसके prominent scholars? They were Radcliffe Brown, Malinowski, Marion Levy Jr., Robert K. Merton, Talcott Parson, and even David Aston, William C. Mitchell, David Apter, Gabriel A. Almond, ये भी तुम्हारे notable political scientists थे who were. So in structural functionalism, please remember, देखो David Aston का system analysis was based on the study of political system, which is nothing else but the interaction and the interdependence between the various entities in that system. And these entities are self-regulating also. And David Aston focuses on political system only, and he talks about the survival of the political system, and he says that the very unique function which political system performs is authoritative allocation of resources. And according to that, he divides the two functions of that political system, which is very essential for survival. One is decision with regard to distribution of resources, and the other one is nothing else but implementation of the decision, so that all the members accept the decision of the political, authority. And as a result of which, there is a network which is created, that is output and input and feedback. Output mein he kept two things. Input he kept two things. That is demand stress and support stress. Support stress is nothing else when members, they give tax, they obey the rules and regulation. Demand stress is whatever expressions people do, whatever opinions people give. And as a result of that, output is there. Output is what? Output, whatever is the decision which the government is taking. And as a result of that, there is a consequence. Now that consequence leads to feedback, and that feedback can be good or bad. So this is going on in that systems approach. But in structural functionalism, here the scholars, they are focusing on the function played by the political structure. And this political structure, it is a part of that political system. That means here the scholars say that political system is made up of political structures. Instead of entities, they are using political structures. And each political structure is performing a function which is different from that of the other. And they're trying to compare the political systems by studying, by understanding the functions played by the political structure in that political system. And the function which the political structure will play, it can be simple, it can be complex. But what is that function which that political structure is having? The function refers to nothing else, but it refers to the observed consequences. It refers to the observed consequences. Consequences means whatever decisions have been taken, uska observed natija. Observed consequences due to which either there can be adaptation. Adaptation means people will accept, support, or there can be what? Readjustment of the political system. Readjustment. Readjustment means the consequence is negative. That's why the function of the political structure, it's try to readjust so that the political system is also readjusted and accepted. And it was supported by so many of the scholars. And Aston focused on stability of political system. Aston jo baat kar raha hai, he's talking about stability of political system. Mitchell, he talks about political system as a subsystem of social system. Apters talk about third world political system. And Almonds explore the transition from traditional to modern system. Just remember it. That what did Aston focus on? Stability of political system. Michel, he talks about political system as a subsystem of social system. That is, political system is just a subsystem of the social system. Apter, he's talking about the third world political system. Almond, he's talking about the transition from the traditional to the modern political system. And Almond also emphasizes the importance of understanding Western political systems, because he said that the Western political systems are idle. They are the idle ones to analyze political change in modern times. So 4 characteristics of political system according to Almond, okay, are specialized structures, similar political functions, multiple functions performed by structures, and a distinct political culture. So Almond says that there are 4 characteristics of political system. One is specialized structures, second is similar political function, third is multiple functions performed by the structure, and fourth is distinct political culture. So this is what is, you can say, about structural functionalism. So not much to understand with regard to structural functionalism. So the entire concepts we have finished. Anything left, please just leave a message on the live chat, or you can also tell the coordinator if any of the points or any of the topics you are not able to understand. So our entire comparative study approach have been completed. We talked about the traditional, we talked about the new institutionalism, we talked about old versus new institutionalism, then we talked about political culture, then we talked about structural functionalism, and finally we talked about David Aston's system analysis. Okay, so it was a very interesting topic. Yes, I'll try to do one thing for all of you. I'll try to bring a comparison part. I'll try to make a chart, comparison chart. And when I make that comparison chart, then we'll present it in this screen. And then we will try to analyze the entire thing from that comparative chart also. So in that respect, what will happen is that things will be more clear to you. Okay. So in this chapter, the next topic will be that of colonialism, decolonialism and all. Okay. So we will go with that part, but after we do some MCQs with regard to these approaches. Okay. After we go up with some MCQs, so next class will be on the MCQ. Okay. So what I need all of you to do is that if you are going with the MCQs with me, okay, I know the answers. But what about you? Whether you know the answers or not, how can I come up with that? How can I conclude with that? Only thing is that you have to reply it on the live chat. So I would request each and every one of you that the MCQ class must be attended by each and every one of you. It should be a compulsory attendance class, so that each and every one of you give a response to that MCQ, and it's the first step towards preparation for the UGC-NET GRF paper 2 political science. And so the next class is all about MCQ, and then after that we'll start with a new topic, that is colonialism, decolonialism. So our comparative politics will be going on. So once the comparative politics is over, that is the unit number 4, we'll go with some new unit, and it will try to bring up some interesting unit which is light, you can say easier unit, so that ek mushkil fir easy, then mushkil fir easy, so that way you can cope up with the things. Okay. Thank you all for joining today with me. Myself, Girish Venkatesh, says goodbye to you. Thank you for joining Drishti IAS, and it's Drishti IAS which is bringing live online class for you on its Drishti learning app. So always remember, the platform which is giving you all this guidance, all these classes, is the only one and only Drishti IAS. Thank you all. Goodbye. From my side, Girish Venkatesh says goodbye, and entire team of Drishti IAS also says goodbye to all of you. Thank you. Meet you tomorrow.